Yeah, hi. Ooh. Ooh. Hello.
How's it going, friends? I'm testing out these cellular hotspots that we have here. Let me know how the quality is. And also feel free to ask a question if you want or share something. See, create better lighting. Cool, that's good. Good to know. And we can go ahead and schedule a Zoom session right here from the palace. I've got one right here. Thank you. I'm not sure what the river is called that's behind me. How am I feeling? I'm feeling great. It's so wonderful here. It's really nice just not doing much. It's really good. And it's just what I wanted. Animals, nature, distance from the Western mindset. And it's far better than any image that we had of it, because my experiences in India are generally much more, I suppose you could say, authentically poor, authentically, Indian, or what the majority of India is like. But we've got a really nice friend here who has several properties and been taking care of us so well. So we've really been received like kings and queens. So that's awesome. It's an awesome little unexpected gift. Are you guys still eliminating? Doing the ICE? The calling work? If not, just do another round of it, at least once a week. Look at what you have and just go through it and just keep eliminating, keep clearing out. The elimination part is my favorite. And for different people, the other portions might be more important, but the elimination part just naturally makes so much room for what wants to come through. So if you want to keep it really simple, simply eliminate what doesn't work. And of course, elevate what can improve and create what's not there. But as soon as you eliminate the things that cause a drain on you, then naturally the energy will go into elevating every other aspect of your life, and naturally you'll attract new designs and new environments. Nice. You guys have any questions? Hey, David. Hey, Anthony. Welcome. You just arrived in Rome and have no idea why you're here, but it feels good. You eliminated your normal work, and this is what happened. That's fantastic. I actually really love Rome. I don't like a lot of cities, as you probably know, but Rome has something awesome about it. Of course, there's a lot of layers, and just like any big city and with the Vatican and stuff, there's layers of corruption there. But old Rome, like Rome, there's something about Rome that to me has always resonated a lot. So yeah, it does feel like a hot spot there energetically. So it makes sense to me that that's where life took you. Where are you right now, David? I know you were traveling in and out of the Netherlands for like a few days. Who else? Write me a short little update here in the comments, just like Emmeline did. Just a paragraph or so. What's up, Corey? Now, on my phone, it seems like when I go live on Facebook, I can have someone show up. But on my laptop, meaning like have your video be inside this video. But here doesn't seem to be the case. Would be nice to have a two-way street interaction. We could, of course, set up a Zoom session real quick, or we can wait till we plan that. Welcome, Tisha. So if someone wants to create a Zoom session real quick, feel free to. If not, that's totally fine too. Just keep chilling here and start writing some more of my books. So I've been yesterday or the day before, yesterday I think, yeah, yesterday, I listed out just a few working titles of books that came to mind, like concepts for books. I got to like, I don't know, 12 or something. If you guys have any more, let me know. Not that I'm going to write them all, but just to have sort of concepts for books out there that I can reference, look at, and see which ones are most inspiring, and combine a few of the concepts into one book, or just pick one that resonates the most. So far, I already have one or two that resonate the most for now, but I'm just looking for some more input. Elko's little update. I have let go of all income-related work. and focusing on this new energy project. That goes well. However, I feel a need to take care of finances again and find a part-time job, which makes me doubt if it is supporting my calling. Does it make you doubt if your new choice is supporting your calling, your leap of faith? Or are you doubting whether the part-time job will be conducive to supporting your calling if you take that? Welcome, Leah. Can you guys see me, by the way? It's a little hard for me to see on my screen, and there's a lot of backlighting. I can turn around. Then you just won't get as much of this. That'd be pretty epic if we get a property like this. Somewhere. I guess you come over for several weeks at a time and we could have creative sprints together and meditative sprints. And as long as the intention of the space is really to upgrade ourselves to then make a difference to the world. So we put it to good use, all the finances, all the land, the opportunity, the blessings. Welcome, Lior. Oh, thank you. Cheers. Ulrika's little update in the comments. Dealing with somewhat boredom, but it's okay. My cat died in car accident this Friday. Oh, and she has been great catalyst for tears in a good way. Oh yeah, I hate that when that happens. I mean, it's fine, but you know, it's one of those more sad things in life. You lost love, Ulrika. I know what it's like. Yes, this is good. Coco, if the job is supporting my calling, right? Well, you know, this is continuously pushing towards the potential, like looking at all those change makers like yourself, but also the less well-equipped change makers in the world, which then usually end up being hippies or outcasts or homeless. So, you know, you guys are fairly well-equipped, meaning you've got this training, you've got each other, so there is more of a capacity, a conscious capacity to yield your skills and creative powers. But there's also a whole host of people that want to make a change, but they're not as well trained, so they're not as well equipped. And you know, every once in a while it pushes me towards this sort of existential, not existential, but relatively important question, which is, what can we create that would allow this whole wave of change makers to switch over in no time from needing a job to not needing a job? Like, what's the system that we are not seeing, that we haven't created yet, that we can put in place together to help those hundreds or thousands of people that are really sincere and they're connected to this work, ideally those connected to our community, because we can sort of vouch for their intention a little bit more easily. So it's a little bit of a filter if they've gone through my work rather than just any new age worker. But at least those that seem really sincere and that pass certain filters, what can we do to help them switch over? And or even beyond that, on a larger scale, what can we implement? What strategy, what system can we create today, hypothetically, like today, that will allow anyone willing, that is a shepherd or shepherd in the making, or intends to be one, or feels like they are one at heart, to switch over from the matrix-based money system to being able to live comfortably and joyfully and freely without needing to have a job. It'd be cool to have a session just on that. And you guys can have that without me too. Let me know how it goes. But nevertheless, I'll be brainstorming about it as time goes on. Welcome, Phoebe. There are direct flights from Iceland to India now. Oh, cool. I'm homeless. Nice. I'm homeless too. But hey, look at this. You know, there's different shades of homeless, I suppose. I'm blessed with good friends. I'm the most comfortable homeless person in the world right now, getting waited on with fresh juices and coconuts every hour. It's really quite ridiculous, but awesome. And I'm learning to receive it. Marcel's little update. Riding the sweet and exciting wave connected to the monastery. Just finished the study week we hosted, supported. The coming week feels about reconnecting with the core group, extracting lessons, enhancing our offerings, and tuning into the upcoming Tier 1 and Tier 2 gathering around New Year's. Feeling other dedicated week retreats coming up for next year, like focused co-creating weeks for high vibe beings, focused self-realization, focused visionary weeks. Love the teaching, learning, happening of inner alignment and outer expression. Nice. Can you guys hear Corey coaching in the background for her boot camp program? And who here is resonant still with the next month or so being about, like the next session or two, being more about self-realization, including the homework that comes with it? Being more about meditation, more about getting beyond the me, getting beyond the sense of the personal me, and even the shepherding me, which, you know, carries a burden as well. That's its nature. Cool. Good. So we could start a little bit right now, and but I'll repeat it probably on our more official meeting, so everyone has a chance to schedule being a part of it, and we can do it on Zoom. Can it be even without meditation? Yeah, yeah. I mean, the nature of direct pointing really is that just by hearing it, you can drop in just by hearing the truth and he recognizes it. Hey, wonderful, thank you. So yeah, if you're not meditatively inclined at this point or trained to the point where that's easy for you, and this goes for a lot of people, you can just listen, read, watch videos, and it can be sometimes just as effective as actual meditation. Anthony's little update. Staying 4 more nights in Amsterdam, then heading back to Brussels. Planning on finding a place of my own for a bit. That sounds good. Right now, I feel like I'm tapping into layers of deep anxiety or unease formed by always taking other people's emotions into account in childhood for survival. Nice. Welcome to the Wonders Incarnation. So learning to feeling at ease no matter what. Nice, buddy. So I can be of help no matter what. Nice. Planning on following 3D interests a bit more and see what kind of cool stuff happens. Awesome. Find a place to volunteer so I get out of self-focus a bit more. I think that's great. Somehow feels like if I go more in the world, I can fast track my own spiritual awakening as well. Yep. Planning to get a 3D job to learn some new skills or to see what I really, really don't want or what's not aligned. As for calling, I feel mine is about freedom. Just wondering how I will really fully take responsibility to manifest that in the world for everyone. Beautiful. David's little update. By the way, great self-knowledge there, Anthony. Like your whole post radiates that you're aware of your own layers, your own traps, and you're not just like having a positive image about yourself, which is also good to have, obviously, to have high self-esteem, deep self-confidence. There's a parrot taunting a snake that's sticking its head out of a tree. Sneaky little parrot. They're so smart. Like humans with wings. And they talk just as much. But everyone, if you read Anthony's comment, you'll see that, you know, it's not just, and not that a lot of people on here do this frequently, but, you know, sometimes it happens. But it's not just like, yeah, I'm a shepherd and I'm all about this and I'm all about that. Not just like rehashing the terms that we use in this program to sort of boost one's self-image. But it's quite, instead, his post is quite thoroughly self-aware. So he's describing multiple layers of what he's noticing within himself and what he thinks would be a good counterbalance. And so he's taking action to actually balance out his imbalances actively on his own, you know, so he's becoming his own mirror. So, and a lot of you guys do this, but this post is just quite transparent in that way. David's little update. Now car is driving, so I can text. Oh yeah, he's got a Tesla. It's so convenient. I just arrived in Stockholm, finishing up a project. Just really getting my shit together. Getting over myself. Focus and devotion isn't even needed. I'm operating from beyond that. Things manifesting quick and easy with a blend of pain and pleasure. If I flinch, I feel it deep and I automatically adjust. But the best part, I don't even care, because I got sick by even thinking that I keep some of this daily shit in the future. So I shifted to it already happened. From the outside, I'm hustling around, being what I'm being, crying, laughing, screaming, doing backflips, making money, listening. From the inside, I'm just eating popcorn and watching. Cool. Good. Thanks, Marcel. Since we're already 30 minutes into the session, and I'd like to do some writing soon, and it's working quite well now with people writing their updates here, and I can kind of feel you guys' energy coming through this format. I think we're good here for the next few minutes. So it's just going to briefly introduce, some of the self-realization work, or rather reintroduce. Many of you will be very familiar with all of this already, but it's the kind of stuff that you just can't repeat enough, So in a nutshell, what do we do? What's the technical flow of self-realization? And I come back a lot to that it's about going from I am this. It's such a simple formula. If you write it out, I am this, and you could put periods in between each letter. So then there's three components to that. There's the I, there's the M, and there's the this. So I love the simplicity of this formula, and you can explain it to anyone in this way. But it's a good sort of what did they call that? Ezelbruggetje. How do you say that in English? I don't know if someone knows. They can tell me. Sweet Corey, see you later. So it's a good little spine, if you will, to return to in your practices, because sometimes you get a little lost, or you don't know what you're doing and where it's leading, and if you're doing it the right way, and if you should be practicing something else. But if you just remember a very simple formula of I am this, but the fact that this formula can be broken up, so it means it's really three sentences. It's the sentence I am this, it's the sentence I am, and it's the sentence I. And then you could say there's beyond all that. So, but in essence, find the sense of me, which is always somewhere on that spectrum from I to M to this. Somewhere on that spectrum of existence, your sense of me resides. And so if you locate your sense of me, your sense of I am, your sense of being, your sense of me, really, and you see where in that category it falls currently. Is it associated with a body, for example? When you say I am me, does it feel like it's the body or inside the body? And if so, just deepen, just see that, okay, just go to the sensation of I am me and get clear on it. Just meditate on it for like 2-3 minutes. Just stay tuned into that sense of me. And you will see that already it starts to deepen, especially if you've had prior practice. It becomes quicker and quicker. But then you see, or you acknowledge what it is that you're identified with, what feels to be the me. And then you deepen it basically by saying, I'm not that. So you go to the sense of me, and then you take it a step deeper. So you go deeper on that spectrum. You can see it as steps, or you can see it as a spectrum of where your sense of me is placed along this sort of curvature of self-realization. And maybe I can draw a nice map of this at some point. So the I am this state is basically the state of the person. Roughly, you could compare it in that way. And you could roughly say that this is not really accurate, but you could say that the shepherd is very much rooted in I am, even though it still has an I am this. The I am this being, I'm a shepherd, or I'm a soul on a journey, or I am working my way through purifying myself. I am here to be of service to others. Those are still objects. Those are still part of the this. But the this becomes so transparent because the I am becomes more prevalent in the experience of the shepherd than it is in the person. The person is just I am this. I am this body. I am this person inside of a world. So then you locate, it's like you're locating it along this sort of curve of self-realization. You locate the sense of me. You locate the sense of me. So cute. So you locate that sense of me, and then you see if you can get around it. You can get beyond it. You can upgrade along this line. You can go deeper or higher on this line of self-realization, the spectrum of deepening the self-realization. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, again, you identify the sense of me, and then you stay with that sense of me until it starts to reveal the associations that make up that sense of me. Every sense of me at each level has a combination of associations attached to it. You could call them mental containers, or all of these associations together form a mental container. The mental container is the container that contains awareness, that makes it look like the ocean exists inside of a glass. The mental container is like a glass with water in it that's inside of the ocean, or like a glass sphere with water in it inside the ocean. And it makes it seem separate from the rest. And the more dense your sense of me is, the more blind you are to it, the less transparent that container holding the water of your individuation is. To someone very transparent, that is made of completely transparent, undistorted glass. So it may still have a functionality of individuation, but it's so transparent to the essence that it's not really confused in that way. It doesn't really believe itself to be inside of a container. So you go to the sense of me. You get really clear on it. You meditate on it until you see those associations of I'm the body, I'm working, I don't have the finances I want, or I just got what I wanted, or whatever it is, whatever the association is. And you stay with it until that softens and relaxes, or until you get beyond it, until you see it as an object. You see that it's not true. It's not really who you are, because you are there witnessing that sense of me. Therefore, there's a me aware of the sense of me, or the associations of me, or the mental container me. And every time you do that, it's like you're deepening. And then roughly you could say the process goes from I am this, I'm an object, to simply I am, where you're focused on the presence of being here and now. And it feels like presence energy becomes more palpable. There's a sense of nowness, a sense of here-ness. But usually that still has the container of location attached to it. So it's not quite the I, it's the I am. I'm here, I'm this. What is this then? This is the I am here. So, but in essence, the I am is no different from the I. Again, it's not different, it's the same. But the I is the ocean without a glass container separating inside and outside. Whereas the I am, in my teachings anyway, point to the essence, which is the water inside the glass. That's the initial access point for the seeker most of the time. So they focus on the water, they become familiar with waterness, because waterness inside the glass feels the same as waterness outside the glass, but it still has the container of individuation. So I call it the I am. Whereas the I, or when it's recognized, it's I, because then I is aware of I, purely self-radiant, self-luminous. So the I am is exactly the same as the God state of I, except it has the illusion of a container, of a location, of individuation. Again, nothing wrong with that. It's part of the function of expressing infinity. But then when you find that container, that subtle assumption of location, then the I am can awaken, if you will, or dissolve. The sense of being here and now can dissolve into the sense of simply being, the essence of all that is. And this feels more formless. It feels more like awareness and less like energy. It feels more like pure, formless, empty isness. And it feels less like here and now, present, mindful, conscious energy. So that's it in a nutshell. And then there's the absolute beyond that. And the same step applies to each level, basically. It just feels slightly different. But the step of transcending what you're identified with is the same throughout. And for different people, slightly different angles work better, or different mantras or different tools. But the essence remains the same. You go to what you believe you are. You become aware of what you believe you are. And then you see that you're beyond it because you're observing it from another space. It's that simple. The I am this wakes up to I am. The this starts to disappear. The body, mind, world starts to disappear. Now it's just the waterness, the essence, the Satchitananda, the isness of the entity. But there's still a subtle container there, which makes a huge difference, which is that of location and individuation. Now it's already easeful, it's already peaceful, it's already present, it's already more energizing than I am this. But it doesn't compare to the bliss and the expansiveness and the liberation that one experiences. Liberation begins to be experienced really beyond the I am. Before that, it's just ease and peace and comfort, greater clarity, but it's not really a sense of liberation, a sense of true release or freedom. That happens beyond the I am. And once again, it happens in a completely different way beyond the I. I say completely different way. It's got a lot of similarities, but it's very distinct, distinctly different from the liberation from I am an individuation to I am God, or I am all that is, or I'm everything. And again, it doesn't mean that you're aware of all places and times in the universe all at once. That would be more like a city. That would be more like an ability that can arise from that, perhaps. But that's not my experience. Because it wouldn't be relevant, at least not to this point of view of having a body. It wouldn't be relevant to be aware of everything all at once. Although sometimes there's glimpses of that I've had, but it doesn't really define or determine realization. It's about being the essence that is in all things. And you will feel this, you will intuit this and sense this as I am that which is in all things. And that's really the liberation that begins to occur, is that you're not located anywhere. That's liberation. I'm not located. I don't have a location. That's liberation. And then the liberation beyond that, beyond the beyond the I would be, or is, from I am to I, it's I don't have a location. That's the first major liberation. And then the following elevation or liberation would be, I am not. But it's not quite I am not either. It's reality. But it transcends isness. It transcends any kind of beingness. It transcends the isness that is the substratum of all appearances.
Is that the group, the office?
No. This is tier 1.
Tier 1?
Hmm?
Is it alive?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, like basically within 15 minutes, that whole path is explainable. And use that just as basically as a memory aid, as a spinal cord, if you will, to your practices when it comes to self-realization. Go from I am this to the peace and the presence of the I am. Settle in that first. If you've been busy for a while, there's going to be some remnants. There's going to be some associations that you've picked up. It's just human nature. It's the nature of the mind being in a subject-object relationship. And the shepherd still is in the subject-object relationship. It chooses to act and operate in that way, either by free choice. If it's penetrated beyond, then it becomes sort of a free choice, or simply because that entity hasn't fully penetrated yet beyond subject-object duality and is well on its way and is awakening, but is not capable of or hasn't yet transcended shepherding consciousness, and so is working on a gradual path. In either condition, whether by complete free choice or whether that's sort of genuinely, natively where that entity is at in that moment, and doesn't seem like that entity has the penetrative capacity to go beyond subject-object duality at will. Either way, the shepherd is dealing with subject-object, and so at the end of the day, you're going to have picked up some associations, almost inevitably. And so your meditation then should be feeling the I am this, feeling the associations, feeling that you're tired of it, feeling that it's not really who you are. And start just by what you have immediate access to. What's the deeper sense of me before the body, mind, world, other people's problems, concerns, logistics, etc., etc. And you find yourself coming into this present mindful space of I am, a feeling into the presence of the here and now. If you settle into that for a few minutes, and it's going to be very effortless, just by sort of sitting your body still somewhere, gazing out into the distance or at a wall, doesn't really matter. Some people closing their eyes, and you just allow your consciousness to drop into that spectrum of self-realization, of deeper awareness, by just not really doing anything, just not really moving the body, not really moving the mind, not grasping for anything. And you find naturally you are. And then it becomes, again, it's subtle. It's like trying to pick up a flower that's floating on the top of the pond by bringing your hand up from underneath the water surface. Because of the water tension, the flower is going to move away from your hand. So you can't be too quick, but you got to also, at the same time, you got to be decisive. So it's that balance of will and surrender. The guitar string needs to be exactly right. It needs to be not too tense or it will snap, and not too loose or it can't produce music. So similarly, your meditation needs to be intentional. There needs to be an intention behind it, a will, a choice, an intention to tune in to something higher and deeper. But at the same time, that needs to be accompanied by sort of a relaxed faith, a relaxed confidence that you just allow it to happen. You stay intentful, you stay attuned, you stay focused, but you allow it at the same time. You get better at this, it becomes natural. And one way to really trigger this is to have the body not really move. At least for me, this has always worked. If I sit still long enough, it drops in all the way, ooh, just on its own, really. You just don't do anything, don't engage. It becomes easier and easier and easier with more practice. So then you'll find again that the I am thises, the associations from the day, sort of start to dissolve. And there's this peace, calmful presence that arises. But it still feels like you're here and now. And there seems to be a location to it, and there's still some space-time perception with it, maybe. If you sink in even deeper beyond that, you start to awaken to the I, and that's a fairly large spectrum that can be increased, intensified, till more and more location disappears, and the I becomes more and more luminous, more and more blissful, until usually people can't handle it, including myself. It's just zzz. So you practice, you upgrade your system to handle that bliss, that light. But you allow that to happen. You intend it and you allow it to happen. So then you go from the I am to the I, which still is before I am. Before I am over here, there's an I that sees the I am. Turn back into that. Turn your attention back onto the I, which sees the I am. The knower of the I am is the I. Then at first it feels like it's behind you from the point of view of the I am this, it feels like the I am is sort of like beyond you. But as you drop into it, you become the I am. And now it feels like the I am this is in front of you. It's the whole path of self-realization. And then from the I am, if you tune into the I, the knower of the I am, it feels like it's back there or beyond yourself. But as you drop into it again through intention and surrender and confidence, you become the I. And now it starts to feel like the I am is just an optional appearance over here in front of you that you can either look at or not look at. And then you become more saturated in the I. Now, when you really pristinely saturate yourself in the I, now you can start to realize there is a me even aware of the I. There's a me even aware of the God presence, the God isness awareness consciousness, the God energy. There's me, and then there's presence awareness isness God state. Me is older than presence isness awareness God state. What's that? That's the absolute. Beyond that, there is nothing. So the same process applies. It's just slightly different flavors of awakening at each stage. So that's self-realization in a nutshell, really. So it's like the object becomes aware of the subject. At whatever stage it's at, it goes deeper into the knower, deeper into the subject of whatever is experienced. Whatever is perceptually experienceable in that moment is not you, right? As Nisargadatta says very succinctly, if you can perceive it, just know that it's not what you are, obviously. It's kind of a logical approach, but it works experientially if you take it deep enough. So what I experience, what I perceive is not what I am, because I am, and then I perceive. So there's the I am first and foremost, and then that I am somehow is endowed with the consciousness, with the awareness, with the ability to know what is perceivable. If it's perceivable, it's not you. So, but this is not a once in a lifetime kind of thing that you realize. This is a consistent practice that has a deep learning curve and a gradient. And it requires practice. It requires direct contact that's repeated over and over again. So become aware of the object, me, the sense of me, and then become aware of the subject that's aware of the object, me. So there's the subject, me, and the object, me. In any equation, pretty much, there's the knower of the known. And you just move this up the spectrum. The knower becomes subtler, and the known becomes subtler. But still there's something that you believe is you, something that you feel like it's you. That's the object, me. Become aware of the fact that you're also the subject, me. And then you become the subject, and then the object you previously identified as being you, subject, now becomes the object. What was behind you now becomes in front of you. So you move that further and further backwards, if you will. Thank you for the nutshell. You're welcome. You can have the actual nut too if you want. Does this make sense, y'all? It's a pretty exact science. It's pretty definable, which is good because it's usually left very abstract in a lot of spiritual teachings. It's not clearly defined, but it's quite definable actually, and it just helps, you know. There's this whole movement that's like, yeah, it's not about knowing it intellectually. Well, actually, it helps. It really does help for a lot of people to know it intellectually first, because they keep seeking if they don't understand it. But if you can understand it and give it to them in a definable scientific sort of practical understanding, and they know they don't really have a question of, oh, but where does this fit in, or where does that belong, and it's all contained in this intellectual understanding, then that gives the mind the ease it needs to actually start to practice, because it's not afraid that it's going to miss out on anything. It's not afraid that it's going to practice the wrong practice. It understands the context beyond its own practice. It understands why it's currently doing this exercise and what might be the next exercise, if there is such a thing. But if you have any questions about what I just shared, just let me know. And again, has the live streaming been consistently good, both audio and video quality this whole time? Kind of important for me to know for our next session on Zoom, if I can stay here or if I have to find some other spot. Once you practice and practice resting the eye, can you operate and function in the human form while staying in the eye most of the time? Yes, but it will be different. This is one of the reasons that I'm not allowing myself to go as deep as full time, and it's one of the reasons why I accumulate some tensions every once in a while that I then need to shed. It's because I still choose to be active and to be a shepherd. So it's not so much is it possible. That's not the question, because that kind of implies, like, will you be able to do it? The whole thing about the eye is that you won't be really doing anything. If you're tuned into the eye with a great sort of intensified consciousness or concentration, I guess you could say, then that takes up pretty much 100% of your bandwidth. And so what then begins to operate the body is a natural intelligence that flows from the eye state. However, things will change and shift, especially if we're talking being tuned into beyond the eye. But very similar differences arise when you begin to tune into the eye with a great degree of concentration. You simply won't have the conscious capacity to really do or decide or choose things like you normally would with a sense of free will. So it is more like everything is simply arising, and the spontaneity of intelligence is taking over the body and the mind and the choices and the actions. So for me, it's a combination of that and remnants of free individuated thought, which allows me to teach kind of in the way that I want to teach, when I want to teach, how I want to teach. Allows me to describe things in a certain way that simply kind of disappeared. There's no allegiance, there's no energy for certain things anymore. Has been my experience. Might be different for you guys. This is quite experimental, because this is not like what people sell in your average, spirituality retreat. This is not what people talk about or point to. So a lot of you guys will be co-experimenting with me, and will be creating the science of this, how to live a modern life, even though the how question doesn't really arise probably, but we can start documenting. We can start, like with any field in science, once it starts becoming more prevalent, then you start to accumulate data. So we'll see. I mean, you guys will be answering some of these questions yourselves, and I can just speak from my own experience and say that when you're sufficiently tuned into the eye, there's no sense of wanting to or doing anything. And the sense is that your free will is completely locked on to the eye state, and that whatever happens is a natural result of God's intelligence operating. The innate intelligence, which is always God's intelligence. So can you operate and function in the human form Yes, but it won't feel like you are operating and functioning in the human form. It'll feel like an appearance that's playing itself out, much like a movie. It's kind of like when you're in a theater. If you really stop believing in the movie, you're no longer engaged. If you're aware of the fact that you're sitting in the theater seat and you maintain awareness of I am over here in the theater seat, the movie kind of passes you by and you don't really catch on to any of it. And it doesn't catch on to any of you. So it's liberating, but it also makes you sort of unable to talk about the movie with your friends and relate in that way. And so you can't really give your opinion on it. You can't really have an emotional feeling about it. It's kind of like that, which is great. I mean, it's awesome. It's amazing. It's bliss. Bliss is the end of emotions. Bliss is beyond emotions. However, if we're here to make a difference, also you'll find you won't be able to make a difference in certain ways. And then one could argue, well, isn't that better if God's intelligence is doing it? Ultimately, yes. And given where our civilization is currently at, your native state will be too unrelatable. And so for a lot of people, they might be attracted to it. Some people might be attracted to it, but it will not be understood. It's not something you can really explain. It's not something that's really actionable in a way people can recognize. So, like I said, I maintain a certain degree of that relative free will inside the subject-object realm. And so that's why I also need to cleanse myself every once in a while. I also need to keep myself in check, if you will, and reconnect to deeper degrees. Even though my awareness is transparent, my glass is very transparent. The glass analogy in the ocean, glass with water inside of it, inside the ocean. That glass is a fairly large glass, and the glass itself is transparent to the ocean. But still, after a day's of hard work or a month or years of hard work, the glass can be a little damp or a little dirty. It needs to be scrubbed a little bit. But it's all good, once you know the ocean, once you've tasted the ocean, once you can taste the ocean at will and deepen in it at will, it becomes a non-necessity necessarily for the individual. Not that one shouldn't continue to deepen and focus on it. One ideally should and does continue to incorporate that in one's practice and dissolve into that more and more, and I do. But there's also an element of bravery or fearlessness that arises because one knows that one is always going to be okay anyway. The glass breaks when it's totally cool. If the glass grows empty, it's totally cool. If the glass overflows, it's totally cool. It doesn't ultimately really matter because you've tasted the ocean. You know the ocean. You can go there at will. And so the necessity for it becomes less, and the capacity to be of service in a way that civilization can recognize, at least in my theme, has been prevalent, has been a choice that I've been making. But you don't have to make that same choice, by all means. If you want to soak completely in the I like Ramana Maharshi did, go ahead. All right, guys. I think I'll be signing off. This was wonderful. And yeah, this is helpful for me sometimes to not have to schedule every session, to just kind of let it flow. And when I'm feeling it and there's a Wi-Fi connection, I can plug in with whoever is there. I know it's not ideal for everyone. You guys would like to all be there live as much as possible and have a two-way video. But nevertheless, for some of the content creation, I don't think this is a bad choice, especially if it's in the moment. It can sometimes add a certain quality that the Zoom sessions otherwise don't have as easily because they're more scheduled, they're more contrived in some senses. So yeah, great. To the team, let's turn this into an actual session. And in the description can say that the first 30 minutes or so is kind of casual banter and hanging out, and that the actual teaching of the session starts at 30 or so minutes. We can check out when it actually begins, and you can give it a topic description. And also for tier 3, we can put this in the itinerary, or not itinerary, in the word escapes me, but you know what I mean. The curriculum. And yeah, we can repost this or re-explain it in tier 1 as being a session that people should watch, especially from the half-hour mark forward, as sort of a teaser for the self-realization aspect that we'll be entering for a while. And then the next Zoom session, I'll repeat some of this. I'll go in depth with some more other exercises, kind of as I did in the Amsterdam event. But, you know, new stuff always arises, new descriptions, new angles. And then I'll be giving some homework for this, and we'll be doing some suggested subgroups and meditations. Love you guys. Ciao, ciao.